everyone, it's Neo Hippie here, aka Dylan Roth. I'm out here at Shem Creek in Charleston, South Carolina. In the 1930s, this was established as a major port for shrimping boats, as well as fishing and shrimping ice manufacturing. So what brings me out here is to show you a little area of where I live. And this was one of the reasons why I decided to move down here, was just for the really beautiful scenery, just being closer to nature. And I really had to get out of New York City. The city's just not what I used to enjoy, and it's really deteriorated. De Blasio was responsible for much of the crime taking over. Eric Adams is now just doing much worse. And because of the increase in crime and derangement on the streets, my girlfriend Karu and I decided to leave New York, and we are very happy with our decision. So the COVID mandates were another reason why we had to leave. It started to wind down as we were leaving, as we were planning on moving here to Charleston, but it just didn't really seem like it was right for us to stay in the city, because we knew that it was on a downward spiral in so many other reasons. And now that the mandates are lifted, there's still not much of an incentive for me to want to live in the city again. I took part in a lot of the activism that was going on against the mandates. Before that, I was going to Trump rallies, and a lot of people that emerged from those Trump rallies would also come to these medical freedom rallies.
We, the people, will not comply.
You have to show proof of vaccination to get into bars or restaurants, and that led an angry group of protesters in Queens to have a sit-in at the Cheesecake Factory.
I want to show everybody my COVID pass. It is the Constitution of the United States.
Whoa. If you guys refuse to leave, we will be arresting you for criminal trespass.
It would be easy for me to say, pack up everything and run. But my personal feeling is, if you're going to fight, you have to fight on the front line.
It felt like we were going through a war, bro.
Bottom line, are you wearing the mask or aren't you? That's the defining line right there.
So I witnessed a lot of crazy stuff, and I was filming a lot of this, putting it on my channel, and I was really part of a historical movement. There was just nothing like this ever in New York City, and we were marching on the Brooklyn Bridge, going to restaurants and participating in sit-ins, people getting arrested. It felt like we were in a movie. I was having a lot of fun, to be honest, you know, even though dealing with the craziness of these mandates and dealing with masked people all the time. But I think I got to the point where I didn't really need activism anymore in my life, because I realized that we need to start focusing on the things that don't keep us so dependent on the government, on society. It has a lot to do with how much you are creating and producing on your own for your own life of freedom. And I think a lot of activists don't really know what it means to be truly free. When you're out there protesting and marching, trying to ask for your jobs back because you got fired for being unvaccinated, I think there's a lesson to be learned from who is it that you really want to be dependent on? And do you really want to go back to this government, to working for this city that abused you, that didn't respect your freedom? While the intentions of the freedom fighters right now, I appreciate in them trying to get back the jobs that they rightfully deserve. But at the same time, I think that if you want to be truly free, it takes courage to really disconnect from all these things that we've built our lives around. And there are so many things that the government has given us since birth that we're dependent on. And to live in an alternative system is scary. What I realize is that we're so caught up in trying to change the world around us that we don't focus on the work that we need to do within ourselves. And what it means to be truly free is when you achieve that independence from the system. And a lot of conservatives out there, you know, myself included, we get caught up in this programming that, you know, we have to survive, we need to work hard in order to survive. And I don't really adhere to that principle, because when I focus on my passions and my creative work, I don't look at that as work. I look at that as what makes me feel alive, what gives me a sense of purpose. It's what makes me happy. And for me, I don't really want to work for anybody, so having the 9-to-5 grind doesn't really give me a sense of freedom. And while it's needed and it's important for society, creative people need to look in a different direction. And I think that protesting and always reacting to the next thing doesn't actually achieve results on a creative, productive level. You just end up staying in the same cycle of complaining and saying that, oh, the government can fix the problem if they do this. If we scream loud enough, they might make the changes. But that's the trap that we get ourselves into. We go out there marching and protesting exactly for the thing that keeps us enslaved in this perpetual cycle. So what we need to learn is that the Great Awakening comes from you. When I hear all these things about, oh, we need to change the world or we need to change society, who is we? It's not about we, and it's never about a particular movement. It's about the changes that you make. It's the changes that you make on an individual level that can inspire others. And that's true leadership. So we really need to start acting more like leaders in the sense of leading by example and creating the lives that we really want for ourselves. Because what I see around us is that the institutions are crumbling. The 9-to-5 matrix, the usual system that we're so accustomed to, it's all starting to crumble. And the pandemic was a good sign of that. It's the sign of the Great Reset. It's a sign that the current system that we're in isn't working. And we've entered a paradigm shift. When I was, in quarantine, under lockdown, it felt like a paradigm shift for me because now I could really focus on the things that meant the most to me. Everybody was in fear and figuring out what they were going to do with their lives, but I took advantage of that. I was getting very politically involved and filming rallies and connecting with the conservative community of New York, which led to so many great experiences. And I met my girlfriend, and soon I started working at Project Veritas. Anybody you like?
I can't say anything. Nobody in particular you like, or? I don't like none of them.
You don't like any of them?
To be honest.
You like none of the candidates?
Only one.
Anybody in particular?
I only like one. It's Maya. She's a civil rights lawyer, so they think differently.
Okay. All right, I appreciate it.
That's just my opinion.
But like, if you were voting, you would probably vote for her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because she's a good lawyer. So
that is kind of one of the reasons why I wasn't as active in posting content on my own channel. A, for the reason that so much of my work and so much focus and energy was on work for James O'Keefe for Project Veritas, and I didn't really get to do much on my own. And posting on my channel was risky because of the privacy issues of working at Veritas. So as an undercover journalist, I could not film myself, and I couldn't really go public with anything. So it was very limiting in the voice that I could have, in the platform that I could have. Being able to work for an influencer taught me a lot about production, a lot about organization and structure that I wasn't really thinking about when it came to journalism, when it came to producing your own content. So I got to travel a lot and have some pretty crazy experiences. And I worked with some really amazing people, but in the end, I wanted to do my own thing. Working for organizations and doing activism, I found was kind of just counterintuitive to what I wanted for my own vision. That's why I encourage people that are critical thinkers, that are more introverted out there, but you're very aware of what's going on. Try not to focus on reacting so much to what's happening out there. Focus on creating. Focus on being the best version of yourself that you can be. Because I'm gonna say this now, and I'm sorry to disappoint any of my freedom fighter friends, protesting doesn't really accomplish anything. It's great at bringing awareness to issues, but it's not going to convince the controllers to do anything. Throughout history, I don't think I've ever really seen a protest that has had major accomplishments. Now, the mandates in New York were lifted, and you could say, oh, maybe it had something to do with our activism, but I think that right now, the COVID narrative and vaccine mandates and all that, it's not really serving the political agenda currently. So whatever the controllers are up to right now, it just doesn't serve their interests, especially leading up to the midterms. So it could all just be political. And who knows, we might have another variant next year to deal with that will cause the whole lockdown. I highly doubt it because I don't think as many people will buy into that narrative. But right now, the state of our economy is what we should really be more concerned about. You know, they don't want us to have access to the simplest things, but we are seeing food shortages, we are seeing energy crises, just about everything you could imagine happening under communist control. You might also be wondering how I feel about Trump right now because he was pushing the vaccine so heavily. And I'm really disappointed that Trump had to cave to the demands of Big Pharma, of the New World Order for this depopulation agenda, which now we're seeing is killing people. And the way that Trump fought back against the swamp, against the media, and exposed them for the criminals that they really are, is what made me appreciate him as president. And that's what I'll always be grateful for him, is that he exposed what was going on and he woke so many people up. That's what makes me supportive of him. And I never expected him to be perfect. It just didn't seem to be strategic for Trump to go against the COVID narrative, which is, oh, I'm not going to recommend this vaccine. And had he gotten into office for the next 4 years, I think he would have prevented mandates from happening. I don't think we would have seen that at all under a Trump presidency. I don't think we would have seen that if he had another 4 years. And there's only so much that you can do in one term, especially when you're just one guy going up against the establishment. I mean, he was surrounded by a cabinet that he couldn't even trust himself. And a lot of people ended up stabbing him in the back. A lot of good Republicans, a lot of good patriots that turns out they were really just working for the system all along. So I think Trump did play the game the best that he could. But when I look into Trump's background, I consider the possibility that maybe he was a Trojan horse all along. He had a long relationship with the Rothschilds, and when he was bankrupt in the 80s, he was able to get the Rothschilds to save his business. We can't wait around for false idols like Trump to come and save us. We need to be the ones to save ourselves, to save our country, and to protect our freedom. It's up to us. I think that Trump played an instrumental role in waking us up and helping us see what was going on, but all he did was open the doors. Now we need to go through. That's all the time I have for today. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.